A car slams into a snowbank on a dark mountain road. The airbags deploy. A bus driver pulls over to help. She waves him off, tells him she's already called for a tow. He doesn't quite believe her. He drives home and calls the police anyway. Minutes later, officers arrive. The car is locked. Her phone is inside. Her wallet is inside. A rag is stuffed deep in the tailpipe, and Maura Murray is nowhere. Search dogs would later pick up her scent leaving that car and then lose it abruptly, 100 yards down the road, in a way that suggested she'd gotten into a vehicle. She had emptied her bank account that morning. She had lied to her professors about a death in the family that never happened. And there's a name connected to a fingerprint in that car that most casual coverage of this case leaves out entirely. Maura Murray was born on May 4th, 1982, the fourth of 5 children in a close-knit Irish Catholic family from Hanson, Massachusetts. She grew up smart, disciplined, and athletic, a standout on her high school track and cross-country teams, driven enough to earn a congressional nomination to the United States Military Academy at West Point. She spent roughly 18 months there before leaving in early 2002. The reasons were never fully public. Some who knew her pointed to the toll of military discipline. Others pointed to a disciplinary hearing she faced during her time at the academy, one where a fellow cadet named Stephen Baldwin, who she reportedly dated, represented her. Both left West Point around the same time. By 2004, Maura was rebuilding her life as a nursing student at the University of Massachusetts Amherst in the middle of a demanding clinical rotation. On the surface, things looked stable. Underneath, they weren't. Late in 2003, she'd been caught using a stolen credit card number to order food, a fraud charge on track to be dismissed after 3 months of good behavior, but one that could have jeopardized a future nursing license if it went the wrong way. Then came the week of February 5th, 2004. That Thursday, while working her campus security job, Maura took a call from her older sister Kathleen, who had relapsed into alcoholism. Maura's reaction was severe enough that her supervisor had to walk her back to her dorm. Asked what was wrong, she could only say 2 words: "My sister." That Saturday, her father Fred drove to UMass Amherst to spend time with her. That night, after Fred had returned to his motel around 3:30 in the morning, Maura was involved in a minor car accident of her own, a small collision nobody thought much of. It meant the final 2 accidents of her life happened just 2 days apart, in 2 different states. Then, on the morning of February 9th, everything accelerated. Maura emailed her professors, claiming a death in the family and telling them she needed to leave immediately. There had been no death. Just before 3:15 p.m., she was caught on ATM footage alone, withdrawing $280, nearly everything left in her account. She returned 79 empty cans for a few extra dollars in change. She bought about $40 worth of alcohol at a liquor store, packed her dorm room like someone who didn't intend to come back, and got into her father's black Saturn. She drove north, alone, into the White Mountains of New Hampshire in the dead of winter. She told no one, not her boyfriend, Bill Roush, whom she'd spoken with by phone earlier that evening, not her father, not her sister. By early evening, snow was falling on Route 112, a narrow, unlit road through Haverhill locals call Wild Ammonoosuc Road. Just before 7:27 p.m., her car came around a sharp turn too fast, spun out, and struck a tree hard enough to crack the windshield and deploy both airbags. A nearby resident heard the crash and called 911. Around the same time, school bus driver Butch Atwood happened by on his route home and stopped to check on her. She told him she'd already called AAA for a tow. It wasn't true. There was no cell service on that stretch of road. Atwood didn't fully believe her. He drove home and called police himself. When officers arrived, roughly 10 to 20 minutes later, the scene told its own quiet story. The car was locked. Her phone sat inside. Her wallet sat inside, untouched. A box of wine and a soda bottle with a reddish alcohol-smelling liquid were found inside the vehicle. And stuffed deep into the tailpipe was a rag, something her father had once told her would stop excessive smoke from an aging engine, though a mechanic later consulted on the case noted that stuffing a rag that far into a tailpipe would more likely stall the car altogether. Maura Murray was gone. No blood at the scene, no clear signs of struggle. In that narrow window, a 21-year-old woman had apparently left her own locked car on foot into freezing darkness with no phone and no wallet and never surfaced again. When bloodhounds arrived, they picked up her scent at the driver's door and followed it roughly 100 yards east along the shoulder. Then it stopped, not faded, but ended abruptly in a way handlers associated with someone entering a vehicle. Hundreds of searchers combed the mountains around Haverhill for weeks. Cadaver dogs were brought in more than once over the following years, including one alert in a nearby basement that led to nothing. No clothing, no remains, no trace of her has ever surfaced in more than 2 decades of searching. One detail rarely makes it into casual retellings of this case. According to journalist James Renner's reporting, a source close to the investigation revealed that fingerprints lifted from inside Maura's car were matched to Stephen Baldwin, the same former cadet who'd represented her at that West Point hearing years earlier. When the claim went public, Baldwin didn't deny it. Law enforcement, however, has never officially confirmed the match, and Baldwin has never been charged with any crime connected to her disappearance. Given the two had a prior relationship, a print in the car could plausibly date back to an earlier, unrelated occasion. It's not the only loose thread. Unconfirmed reports, drawn from a search warrant Renner obtained, suggest cell records from the day she vanished may show a call placed to Maura's phone from a tower in southeastern New Hampshire, though the records remain incomplete, heavily redacted, and disputed. If accurate, it would place the caller somewhere along the route from eastern Massachusetts toward the White Mountains. The same afternoon, Maura decided suddenly to drive north herself. It's given rise to a theory researchers call the tandem driver theory, the idea that someone was traveling in parallel with her that day, whether she knew it or not. None of it proves abduction. None of it proves she was meeting anyone. But stacked next to the fabricated death, the emptied account, and the packed dorm room, it raises a question that's never been answered. Was Maura Murray running from her life alone, or was she driving toward someone the entire time? Her father, Fred Murray, spent the rest of his life refusing to accept that his daughter simply walked into those woods and died of exposure. He believed she was taken, maybe not against her will at first, but taken all the same. He pushed for answers for 19 years and died in 2023 without getting them. Her sister Julie is one of several siblings who've kept the case alive since, through podcasts, public appeals, and social platforms, alongside independent researchers behind shows like the Missing Maura Murray podcast and Full Disclosure, who've spent years filing records requests and chasing leads that keep circling back to the same unanswered questions. The New Hampshire Cold Case Unit still lists this as active more than 2 decades later. The turn on Route 112 is still there. The 100 yards of shoulder where a scent trail simply stopped existing is still there. And somewhere between a disputed fingerprint and a phone call from a tower, she had no obvious reason to be near. Someone still knows what happened to Maura Murray. They have never said a word.